Forensic police have focused their search on an Airbnb in Tenerife where missing British teenager Jay Slater reportedly vanished from.
Well, this comes as one of the men who last saw the 18-year-old insists that the teenager was alive when he left the property.
Meanwhile, Jay's mother, Debbie Duncan, has revealed her pain and her agony over her son's disappearance.
Well, joining us now is former Metropolitan Police Detective Peter Bleksley. Good to see you this morning, Peter. And tell us about the development that we've had overnight.
Yeah, so a 31-year-old man who stated that he rented the Airbnb in Masca, which is a property that we know that Jay drove to in the company of two men, or was driven to, I should say. Spent some time there, sent a Snapchat posting of himself on that doorstep, and we know that because analysis of the Snapchat posts that Jay did that Monday morning clearly shows a mosaiced floor exactly matching the pattern outside this property. So, 31-year-old man, formerly of Cardiff, that says he rented this at £40 per evening, has spoken to the media. Let me just say this as delicately as I can. This man has a rather checkered past, which I would find extremely interesting were I investigating Jay's disappearance. And on that note, I think if we'd been faced with a similar situation in the UK being dealt with by a British police service, we'd have seen a lot of differences, I think, in terms of how the media strategy might have been a bit better kind of organised. We'd have got regular updates. The public would have been kept in the loop, because the interest in this case is simply vast.
We would have seen press conferences, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
every
undoubtedly.
day.
You'd have seen a police officer, if not on a daily basis, perhaps every 2 or 3 days, in front of the media, giving updates and asking for public assistance according to what aspect of the inquiry the police would have felt that necessary.
Peter, you talk fascinating there about the potential focus that might have been out at the start of this. At the very beginning, when we started covering this, we were saying, well, he was in that apartment, a couple of fellas he was with, left the country seemingly without even being questioned. And then suddenly the whole investigation fans out following one line of inquiry that he went for a long walk in all of this terrain, helicopters, sniffer dogs, drones. Meanwhile, now it's flipped right back to where we started, at the Airbnb itself. Has that strategy been flawed?
Oh, undoubtedly. Let's look at what the Spanish police, the Guardia Civil as they're known, told us early on in the inquiry. And that was they'd spoken to the two men from the vehicle which Jay travelled in, and they said they were not relevant to the inquiry. And they said that really at a very early phase. And then, over 2 weeks later, two plainclothes police officers with forensic overshoes over their day shoes are seen coming out of that property. Now, that smacks to me of having to rewind a little bit, perhaps when their strategy of, yes, he must have gone missing in the mountainous terrain, did not deliver any kind of discovery. Perhaps they've had to rather embarrassingly rewind, look at the overview of everything and say, well, perhaps we left some gaps there that need to be plugged.
And those gaps that you referenced there, those 2 weeks, how will that affect the collection of forensic evidence in that Airbnb potentially?
Potentially, catastrophically.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Madeleine McCann case, if we may, for example. Another very high-profile case of a missing British, albeit child, in a foreign country. What we know from that case was that the police mishandled the scene of Madeleine's disappearance, the apartment from which she disappeared. And when I say mishandled, what I mean is there was ample footage of so many people traipsing in and out of that apartment, people who clearly had no right to be there, uniformed police officers, other people that were simply unidentified, going in and out, in and out, in and out. Now, what happens with a forensic scene, why they should be so carefully preserved, is that when you've got people in there that shouldn't be, they can inadvertently destroy, remove, damage forensic evidence, and of course you only get one chance to get it right. So if that chance has been missed, like it was in the Madeleine McCann case, look how damaging that has been to that case, which remains stubbornly unsolved over 17 years later.
And of course, Peter, electronic evidence. If individuals who were at the property simply left the country with their telephones and everything that entails, that's a huge black hole in the evidence straight away.
Tying down a particular device to a person is absolutely crucial, because analysis of the data that phone or iPad or laptop may have sent out and received, because they're hoovering data up all the time, can so often pinpoint a particular person to a particular place at a particular time. And that really applies here, because when Jay's phone last pinged, it was that location that the Guardia Civil focused on and fanned out their physical search from there. Data is just so important to modern investigations.
Fascinating. So Peter Bleksley, amazing. And this will just roll and roll. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.